Probably under word problem. And the very most important thing for you to remember about percents is simply that percent means out of 100. Out of 100. For example, if you played basketball and you shot 100 free throws and you made 70 of them, you made 70 out of 100 free throws, your percentage, your shooting free throws, your percentage is 70%. The problem, ladies and gentlemen, runs into when, generally speaking, in a basketball season, especially at the 5th grade level, most of you are not going to shoot 100 free throws. Maybe you'll only shoot 25 free throws. So if you made 8 out of 25 free throws, that's not out of 100, so what do? Well, children, you people have some pretty intellectual minds. If you can change this fraction and make an equal fraction so that it has 100 on the bottom, you can figure out your percent. Well, that's good because how do you go from 25 to 100? You multiply by 4. If you multiply 8 by 4, you're going to get the top number, and that right there, the number on top, is the percentage. You have a 32% thing. Now, when you have baseball, batting averages, for some reason somebody decided not to go with percents, which you really should be able to do. You know, if you're batting like 300, okay, which is a pretty decent major league batting average, okay, for some reason somebody said, let's not do things out of 100, but really let's do that out of 1,000. This is 300 thousandths. 300 out of 1,000 times they get a hit. Well, now this one, if I was trying to change it to a percent, since percent means out of 100, how would I change this fraction so there's 100 on the bottom? Well, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. What do I do with 1,000 to get it to 100? I divide it this time by, it's like reducing a fraction. 1,000 divided by 10 is 100, so 30 divided by 10, or 300 divided by 10 is 30. So a 300 batting average is really the same thing as a 30%. You get on base 30% of the time. You get a hit 30% of the time. That's just kind of the way that goes. Rach, did you have a question? Sorry. I guess. Sure. Is it your tongue? Is that supposed to be there? No, yeah. So here's an example problem. Here's what they'll ask. If 8 of the 20 students are boys, if 8 of 20 students are boys, comma, what percent are boys? And it's always good. If you can change something to a fraction, you can change it to a percent. So if you don't know what the answer is to this whole percent thing, think about it as a fraction. What fraction of the students are boys? Well, if there's 8 out of 20, that's your fraction. But I don't want a fraction, I want a percent. And since percent means out of 100, I just need to change that fraction so there's 100 on the bottom. What do I do, pray tell, to 100 or to 20 to get to 100, Andrew? Multiply by 5. So I multiply the top by 5. I get my fraction 40 over 100, which is in fact 40%. It's kind of exciting, isn't it? Whoever thought percents could be just that. Here's another one. Now this time it can go both ways. Sometimes you have to go up to get the percent, sometimes you have to go down. Here, there are 400 beads in all. If 60 out of 400 beads are red, what percent is that? are read? What percent are read? Well, again, what fraction are read? 60 out of 400. Your job is to try to figure out what that is out of 100. 60 over 400, how do I go? How can I make 400 100? What do I do to 400 to get it to 100? Sam?
Divide by 4.
Look at you. Divide by 4. 400 divided by 4 is 100. Uh-oh. What about 60 divided by 4? That might require you actually to do some work and go out to the side and say, oh, I need to take 60 and divide it by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So this is 15 over 100 is not my answer because that's not the percent. What is the percent, Annie Clark?
15%.
There you go, 15%. 15%. Let's see if there's one more. Oh, here comes a crazy one. If the team wins, 2/3 of the games, comma, what percent is that? Now here's our trouble, children. Here's where we tend to panic. I need to change 2/3 so that it has 100 on the bottom. Well, guess what? 3 times what is 100?
33 1/3.
It is 33 1/3. So then the top you'd have to multiply by,
33 1/3.
okay, 33 1/3. But we don't really like to multiply. Have we multiplied 2 times 33 1/3? We probably have. We probably could. Okay. But the other thing you could do is actually look at your fraction circles. Because your fraction circles tell you what 1/3 is, do they not? And you would just double it, make it 2/3. But what about this one? What about 7/8 is what percent? Colin, you got a percentage on that?
Almost. I need to.
Almost. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you run into a problem that you just can't figure out, watch this. And write this down in big, big, big letters. As a last resort, to change, and maybe this was you, maybe this was a different class, I don't remember. To change, I'm not sure how that thing got along like this, to change anything, any number to a percent, you can multiply by 100%. That may or may not make any sense to you, but it will in a second. Give you a chance to write that down, and then we'll look at this. And the reason you don't really want to multiply by 100% is just because it's a lot of work in the end. So you really want to try it. If you can, you want to do what we did here, change the fraction. Where did that go? You want to change it by fractions or do whatever. But if you can't, you should feel real bad because it's going to take a little work. The rule says, as a last resort, you can take any number, fraction, decimal, whatever it is, multiply it by 100%. You don't have to worry about the percents, just multiply it by 100, you'll get the percent. Now, how do I multiply 7/8 times 100? What do I have to do with 100? Put it over 1 and make it a fraction. Then what do? Multiply across. What is 7 times 100?
700.
What is 8 times 1?
8.
Now, the reason this is not a lot of fun is because you got to do some division work here. You need to take 700, divide it by 8 and see what you get for an answer. That will be your percent. 8 goes into 70 what? 8 times, which is 64. Subtract, bring down. 8 goes into 60, 7 times, which is 56. And whatever you have left to your remainder, you leave it, you make it a fraction. It's 87 and 4/8, but I have to reduce that to a half. 7/8 is 87 and 1/2%. So, and again, you know, if you have to resort to this, it just means that you got to do a lot of work. There's not a lot of them that you'll have to do that for, but every now and then you'll run across one that you can't change the bottom into 100. You can't do this, and it's just as easy to multiply by that 100. Isn't that exciting? Probably the most exciting thing you will learn all day, even more exciting than English.
Oh, really?